'tis many's a gay night, from dark till daylight, I spend with people of high renown. But in all their grandeur and heaps to squander, my heart would wander for sweet Omagh town.
Hello again, and a very warm welcome to Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio, music and chat from the heart of Omagh during these lockdown days we find ourselves in, and the strange situations we all find ourselves, not being able to go anywhere and having to stay indoors. While we enjoy it, we still feel restricted, but it is as it is, and we just have to try to grin and bear it. I apologise, Declan is not with us this evening. He's has a family meeting. His family ring occasionally for a chat, and they keep the line free for that, which is understandable. Anyway, tonight we hope to play the second part of the An Creagan oral history that Declan and I had the pleasure of recording some time ago, and you'll hear various chatting and some music from that end of town, and our thanks to John Donaghy and the staff at An Creagan for making us very welcome and allowing us to record that. Sat here last night and uploaded some, or digitised some more tapes that you'll hopefully hear in the coming days and weeks ahead. Just off the top of my head, I know we hope to play an interview we recorded some time ago about the Tyrone County Hospital. We recorded Dr. Jamashidi and Miss Law, I think, from memory, and I'm going to have a wee look at that for you. And a lady who I always said had a happy war. She was an Amy Ward, who lived in Omagh, originally from Carrickmore, who was Amy Moffat, who had a good tale to tell about her life in the war and her occupation and what she did and the contribution she made to the war effort and various things. That will come up as well, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 days. And also I found an old interview with the late Will Heaney. Will Heaney lived in Georgia Street, was a bread man, and I had to remember losing his horse in Ballygolly Street in 1915 for the war effort, for the World War. They took the horses, so they confiscated them for the war effort. So that's going to take us back a bit, and he'll talk about his life and his journey through life as a bread man and how he found himself in that. What else is there? Possibly not too sure at the minute what we can find, but we have many other interviews to record and upload for you. But in the meantime, so sit back and relax and enjoy An Creagan Part 2, and keep safe and take care of yourselves.
Resting at the foothills of the Sperrin Mountains, halfway between the towns of Omagh and Cookstown, An Creagan, the Creggan Centre, reflects and celebrates a unique way of life and culture west of the River Bann. Within its iconic whitewashed cottages, you will find the art of music, storytelling and song preserved, nourished and cherished. Here all are welcome to sit by the turf fire, to join in and to enjoy a typical Irish music session in a true ceili-house setting. The following voices and music are but a small portion of recollections recorded over long winter nights at one of these sessions. Our thanks are due to the good people of the Sperrins for allowing us to eavesdrop into their vanishing world and to preserve for posterity their voices and their music.
This is a local traditional song called The Creggan White Hare. In the lowlands of Creggan there lives a white hare. She's as swift as a swallow that flies through the air. You may search through this whole world, there's none to compare with the pride of Lower Creggan, our bonny white hare. On a fine Sunday morning, as you may suppose, as the bright autumn sun o'er the green hills arose, Barney Conway came round, boys, and this did declare, saying, today I'll put an end to your bonny white hare. He searched through the mountains and he searched through the glens, and among the green bushes where the hare had her dens, till at last coming home on a lyric quite bare, From behind a wild thistle out jumps the white hare. Bang went his gun and his dog he let to, and as swift as a swallow the white hare she flew. Well, the dog soon came back, which made poor Barney sigh, a sign the old white hare had bid him goodbye. Well, the next that came round, boys, the truth I will tell. Oh, as a man called Pat Devlin with a crew called Black Nell. He said the white hare she will surely have fun. Sure as 20 to 1, Black Nell'll make a run. Now the hare she got up from behind yon brow now, and as swift as a swallow she sped through the flow. She made for yon meadows to cross o'er the burn, but as quick as the hare was Black Nell made her turn. Now on went the hunt, boys, sure it's lovely to see, as the white hare and black dog moved lightly and free. 5 turns the hare got by bonny Black Nell, and the 9th turn was given round John Hattie's well. Now the hare made her way good as only hares can, out into a lane that leads to Crockmaccan. 'Twas there we lost sight of the hare and the dog, but 5 minutes later they came through the black bog. Now on went the hunt, boys, sure it's lovely and grand. There's no doubt that the white hare's the pride of our land. She came over by Esker where she knew the lanes well, and to the black greyhound the hare bid farewell. There were some jolly sportsmen came here from Pomeroy, Call Island and Cookstown and likewise the Moy, with their pedigree greyhounds they brought from afar, and they landed in Creggan in their fine motor car. Down to the lowlands the sportsmen did go, in search of the white hare they tried high and low, till at last one brave sportsman on a turf bank quite bare cried out to his comrade, "Here lies the white hare." Now they called up the dogs, boys, from off the green lea, o'er the sportsmen and beagles they jumped high with glee. Right there on the turf bank they gathered around, 9 men and 7 dogs did the white hare surround. No wonder the white hare did tremble with fear, as she looked at the greyhound she raised her big ear. She rose on her toes and with one mighty spring jumped over the greyhound and cleared through the ring. Now on went the hunt, boys, like lightning she flew, across the green meadows through the bright morning dew. But the pedigree greyhounds they did not go far, and they came back and went home in their fine motor car. One day John McKenna was digging some ground, and was greatly surprised when the white hare came round. Said he to McKenna, "Who's your man with the dog? Don't you see him over yonder coming through the black bog?" McKenna looked up, stuck his spade in the ground. Said he, "That's a poacher called Jimmy McGowan." Said the hare to McKenna, "Sure I'll sleep snug and well. Sure I thought it was Devlin with Buddy Black Nell." And now to conclude and to finish my song, I hope you'll forgive if I said any wrong. If there's any among you has money to spare, drink a jolly good health to the Creggan white hare.
Maybe the way I see a landscape is you can read it like a manuscript, you know, and I'm just talking about the landscape here. From the prehistoric right down, especially around Creggan and the bog, where the bogs have grown over the prehistoric. And then you come on down, Dunrua and Crock. Then you have the Ogham Stone, which should have been about the time of Patrick or that. A short period in history, Ogham writing on that stone is just commemorates someone that was buried there. The name, it's the name of two people, the son and the father's name, you know.
Is there another Ogham Stone further down from that in the same field?
No, it's a different stone. It's a standing stone, which most of them standing stones go way back thousands of years more, you know, but the Ogham Stone is just down around the time of Patrick or that. Then, of course, you have the Celtic force on the upper end of the own Ria and the own Killy valleys go right on down there. I mapped them out one time, you know, where there were homesteads where people lived, and that had been used right up till maybe 1500s even, maybe later even.
And would these have been settlements?
Well, a family and an extended, according to Claire Foley, she had the archaeology there in Tyrone Fermanagh back some years ago, told me, family or extended family. And of course you go back way back centuries where you had wolves here in Ireland. You know, they needed protection, so they had them foes had a wall around them. And the better off ones had maybe two or more, you know, but they were growing oats that time, and the field patterns wouldn't have been there that time. Of course, the country down in the valleys would have been wooded more, and you would have having the remains of that now. The old Motterloney Forest, Bourne and Gorkin and Drumley, still the remains of the old native forest, which is mostly oak trees and of course other native trees, going back for thousands of years.
Well, then, when do you see the start of settlements of a number of houses together? Will that be places like Turnogue?
Well, the Clohans and that, you know. I suppose the 1700s, the population was low. It started rising then, right up to the famine time with the potato and that. The population rose in Ireland in general. And at the time of the famine, you had over 8 million or more people, and you had no cities hardly, so you had a lot of people in the country. And, you know, the big families and small. Nowadays, you might have 15 rooms. That time, you could have maybe 12 rooms. You'd have 12 of a family that time, and maybe only 1 room or 2 rooms, you know. The old Gaelic system would have been the Celtic force. Then you had the Cashel. There's a Cashel on top of Cashel Mountain. A similar, only built to stone. You know, again, a settlement. And then you had a Crannog, a similar settlement, only on water, an island built on water. O'Neill had a Crannog in Skeurstown, the Creve. You had a few Crannogs there, you know, island habitat. So then we come on down again. Chris, you came right down to, you're talking about the landscape where you can read it. You have holy wells. You had right down then to the traditional field patterns when the fields were formed around my own part, probably in about the 1800s and that.
And that's the fields as we know them today.
Aye, where they were lined it out, you know. Because you look at the first ordnance survey map about 1830, you'll see just a wee patch here and there around the houses, and as you look at later maps, you'll see the fields extending farther up into the mountains. But so you had the farms as they are at the present day, but that wouldn't have been in Gaelic times. The system was different. The first ordnance survey map around around 6 miles from here, it'd been about 1800s, maybe late 1700s. The people would have been settling, gotten patch of ground, and of course they didn't own the land that time, but they were established here. You know, it was the beginning of what you have the farms now. As the population rose, there was more settlements, and then, right, again, the study of the landscape. You take here, you have a boundary here between the parish of Bedoni, the parish of McGurk, just right close here. That's a fascinating boundary to study, Declan, because Derry, you have Columkill, Armagh, you have Patrick, McGurk, you have Columkill, Bedoni, Patrick. So you have Columkill, Patrick, and then the other way, Father Kieran Delvin mentioned that that's a fascinating boundary to study. You know, so the landscape here is alive, and there's so much in it that's authentic. You know, without anything artificial as such. You have the place names again. I would say the jewel of our Sperrin heritage. Again, the place names have a very important part to play. They belong to, you know, right across the political divide. There's something we all share and have a pride, you know, a respect. I mean by pride, respect, and brings people together, and this is something for the future to work on. My mother's granny, she hadn't a word of English, and she come from across the Black Bog here, a townland called Creggan. And as the late Sarah Malloy, it's not that long dead, she told me herself that she hadn't a word of English, and my mother would have said the same, you know. So then my grandfather, Peter Hahi, born about a mile from here, he was bilingual then. His father, of course, was an Irish speaker too, but he could speak English. And in that house then there was Padraig or Paddy. In the 1911 census, he had 3 languages. He had Latin because he was learning, going on for the church, but then because of health reasons or money, which was the problem that time, you know, so he had English, Irish, and Latin. And Shibby was the mother. She was down as Irish only, and Joseph was Irish and English. So therefore, you had monolingual. One generation, then you're bilingual, and then you're down to the generation where you're English only, you know. So the language maybe well over 1,000 years, going on for 2,000 years. It's so recent, it's just, you know, it has changed completely.
Well, usually the whole family worked then times. You know, they had to work on the farm because the farm was your means of living. And the younger ones didn't go out much there and they helped their parents on the farm, which we did in our farm. There were 3 of us, and the 3 of us stayed on the farm with my father and mother and worked on it. We married from very small on bigger and bigger to we were fairly well off in the end when we all got married then. And without us they couldn't have done, because you had to help to get the cows milked and get the calves fed and get the cows away to the mountain and take them up again for milking time and put them to the fields and herd them for a while. There was no much wiring them times. It was just ditches and some of them were broken down, so the children was always used herding the cows, you know, half the day, and then the other half they put them to the mountain for the other half to make the butter a sweeter taste, because all the time on the fields the butter wouldn't have been so sweet. So they always said that half on the mountain and half on the fields made the butter very sweet. So you were needed about the house all the time. The father and mother couldn't do on their own. There was so much work to be done on the farm.
Then again, across the former bridge is Mutter Loney. That's the name of that area, and that comes down for hundreds of years and has only died out now. I think it's important to mention that Mutter Loney. Anglicised Mutter Loney, but that's what I think it's Mutter Linny. And it come from a chief or a person, the name of Linny, I think. back maybe about the 1400s, leader of a clan or a group of people. And at them times they would have moved from the Donegal, just inside Donegal, they moved up the own Killy River, and we are the descendants of them. And that's why you hear now the Sperrin Mountains, but that's only a late name. The Mutterlony Mountains is the name of them mountains. Father Kieran Devlin even said that there with the last few weeks. And his time, like the Mutterlony Mountains, that's the name of the mountains. And the Mutterlony would, according to one source a way back, the boundary is from Mullacarn, Lochatarab there in Mountfield, close to it. That's the boundary of the parish of Bodoni, till Savile Mountain, Liscable down below Gorkin, till Brogyarg, and just that within that area, that's Mutterlony, and that's the Mutterlony Mountains and the Mutterlony people. And the Mutterlony people, you can still tell them, especially the upper end, and then you can tell at Terramagurk, you can tell Donamore, which is the upper end of Kildress, and it's my opinion that you can tell the movements of people away back, and of course how they learned their Irish, how they learned their English from the Irish. It depends, and you had McAvoy would have stated that in a statistical survey at Tyrone 1802, moving about Tyrone with the different dialects, and of course that's my opinion, how people come to speak English with different dialects is how they learned from the Irish locally.
According to Henry Morris, when he produced his first book, Céad de Chealtaí Ulu, 100 Ulster Songs, in 1915, when he visited them around 1908, he said that they were the most impressive singers he'd heard anywhere in Ireland. So that must mean that aspect of Tyrone music and song must be one of the most striking aspects of it, I'd say. Well, he said that when he listened to those songs, he must have approached Alice Milligan's sister, Charlotte, you see, and they also transcribed music from the Tracys in the White Hart Hotel in Omagh in 1908. And I'm guessing that when he says in his book, when Henry Morris says in his book, a great authority on Irish music said that it was reminiscent of ancient harp music, I'm guessing it was Charlotte Milligan Fox, you see, because she was the person who wrote that famous book on the Irish harpers. I can't remember the exact title, it's Annals of the Irish Harpers or something like that. And that would have been written about the same time, you see. So there were a number of people that went to the Tracys. There was Philip Waldron, who was from County Mayo originally, and he had come up to Tyrone as a travelling language teacher, and he'd been employed in 1906 by Father Matt Maguire in Trillick, and eventually he made his way up here. And between 1908 and 1910 then he published songs that he'd collected in Irish from the Winter Linney area, so from Greencastle Parish and the surrounding area, not in this area it seems, but on the far side of Formal Bridge. So he published that stuff in the Herald between 1908 and 1910. And of course, as I say, there was Henry Morris, who was there around 1908, and there was then Charlotte Milligan Fox and Alice, and a number of other people. Carl Hardybeck also met them as well, because he transcribed Charlasog, which, well, probably Orosh the Vahawala is a version of Charlasog rather than the other way around. But so there were about 5 or 6 people. Professor O'Mealy, the piper, had also stayed in that house and transcribed music from them. There seems to be a connection between this area, well, I suppose particularly Winter Linney and Cahalbui Magillaguna, because Cahalbui, of course, is stomping territory then in this Loch Vichnane there, so kind of the North Leitrim, West Cavan area. But it was said that he had married a Protestant lady from Drumlea. So around Drumlea Wood she must have come from. But I mean, someone said to me, did Cathal Bui McGilligonna, did he really ever exist? He probably might be an amalgam of a whole bunch of poets. But there is that connection with him because they had a lot of his songs. And the famous one was on Bunyan Bui. And they had other songs that had only ever survived in the manuscript tradition, but they had them in the oral tradition. So that was quite unique. One of them is on Cashlan Cam, I suppose the crooked, or the crooked castle, so it was off balance, I suppose. And there was a few other ones that they had from Cathal Bui, but that would have been one of the interesting things about them. But they had other songs. There was another one called Cognasker Folwer, which means autumn twilight. And I was given the air of it recently, and that it's a very freakish thing that this has survived, but it has been passed on to me recently. The other collector in this area was Father Con Macayer, Father Con Short, and he was here in 1905 and collected then for quite a while after that. And he published then some articles again in the Ulster Herald around the same time. And well, he's a very interesting figure. He died quite young, and one of the interesting aspects of him was that he collected songs that were really quite different from the ones that were in Muncher Linney. He collected, for example, a version of the famous song The Red-Haired Man's Wife, and that was the song. It's mentioned in Kiley's The Poor Scholar, where these visitors to Carleton's house ask his mother, will you sing this song, The Red-Haired Man's Wife? And she said it's like a man without clothes on it, not a very pretty sight. Or I paraphrase, I can't quote exactly, but it was something to that effect. It's a second best, in other words. But there were other things then on Shandon and Deutsche, which is a common one throughout the country. But if you were to compare the collection that came from here and the collection that came from across Formal Bridge, the remarkable thing, I think, looking at the little bit of evidence that has survived, is that the Mutterlony material that the Tracys had looks to me to be quite unique, whatever that means, but very rare. And that song Cognasker Fower, I have never seen that anywhere else. And there was a song I have come across recently. It's attested nowhere else either, and it was a Connacht song that came probably through travelling people into the Glenelly Valley, probably sometime in the 1700s, certainly well before the famine. And that has, the theme of the rapparees and the post-Williamite Wars. So, to my mind, that if someone said to me, what is the, unique aspect of Tyrone music, I think the Gaelic or Irish language song tradition, which has only begun to be explored, and which I think was probably very rich, probably every bit as rich as the one that is mentioned in that book, The Hidden Oriel by Padraig Niulahain, every bit as rich, maybe richer, but for various sociological reasons, which we don't need to go into here, that much less of the material from here, I think, survived. And that the material that did survive, a lot of it was survived because of people like the Raffertys of Carrickmore facilitating the collectors like Eamon O'Toole. But only for them, that a lot of that work probably would not have been done. It would have been very difficult to do it. But there were very few people like that here as compared to their counterparts in, say, Newry and in Louth. In other words, there were more better off people who were interested in this kind of thing in that part of the world, so there was more of it collected, I think. Iri a hinned Kershis a skeletus chan a huppert a chan a chi. Han year mersa shenna ta poller a skeletus legatus upper a din a wake freed. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi. Larigna brek a cofad a shark agus fada na hasni a tanda hiu. Ver hinche ginny da robin a killing da gurrache gather the scar na wee. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi. Iri a rosh a curart a flock agus chan a tar when you're for bwes. Han year mersa rosh a ta poller ma flock agus fuer a men shaw again yar ta slan. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi. Whip a radr gan wun whip radr gan wun shen a chi.
And there's a wee area around Glen Hull and Coney Lane and all that lane there. Glenark. That was the area, and a wider area, Multier-Lunny he called it. And it seems the people in there, they were sort of, you nearly think they were cut off from the rest of the world up till about 30 or 40 years ago. They didn't go out. I was talking to a couple of old boys, there's one of them dead now, Clark brothers, and there's one of them at home. I hope he's still living up there in Kildress. He said they never saw a train. And I guess I'm talking about 5 or 6 years ago from he told me that. And both of them lived all the nights in Coney Lane and they never saw a train. It's hard to believe that. So that area seemed to be sort of insulated from the rest of the world because they lived within their own community and probably married and never had any cause to go outside that area. So that'll be one of the things that struck me about part of the experience. I spent 2 or 3 summers, Father accusing me, it used to be in Cookstown, he's now in the Moy, curate, cycling in around. There's very few wee roads that we wouldn't know about in down there, and talking to different people, and it seemed to that area like they seemed to closely guarded that, wanted to keep that wee area to themselves. Probably changing now with the younger people, but I would say 50, 60, 70 years ago there was very little coming and going between them and the outside world. Like they just lived in their own community and had their own traditions. And the last Irish speakers came from that area, like Padre Haggy, which over here, and 2 other women. What's this called? The McCrorys in Glenlark. They spoke Irish, and he interviewed them and a couple of other people, and they were some of the people from outside said, "Oh no, that English, that Irish, there's no Irish. It's disappeared years ago. That come from somebody has come in from Donegal and brought the Irish with them. But it wasn't. It was the native Irish that was here hundreds of years ago. That was the last remnants of it that died out in that area, Glenlark and the general area of Sperns."
I suppose most parts of the country have their own idol, be it a church, a chapel, an old cross, a lake or a loch or whatever. But in our part of the country, which is the parish of Lisson, our idol would be Slievegallen. And what has made the name of Slievegallen a household name in many parts of the world where there's Irish immigrants, miles radius off the mountain, was a song written by the late James McGarvey, a native of Derry Yannard, when he tells us that the rent and rate got so high that he couldn't afford to pay them, and he had to leave what he described wild sleeve yelling braes. As I went a walking one morning and me, for the view on fair valleys and the mountains so gay, I was thinking of the flowers all going to decay that grow around ya bonny sleeve gallant brae. How oft in the morning with my dog and my gun I'd ramble those mountains for joy and for fun. But the days are now all over, and I am far away. So farewell unto ya bonny sleeve gallant brae. It was not for the want of employment at home that caused us persons of old Ireland to roam, but the tyrannizing landlord that would not let us stay, and caused us to wander from you sleeve gallant brae. My name is James McGarvey, as you might understand. In the townland of Derry Gennard, I owned a farm of land. But the rent was getting higher and the tax I couldn't pay, which caused me to wander from you sleeve gallant brae. How oft in the evening with the sun in the west I'd walk hand in hand with the one I love best. But the days of youth are over, and I am far away. So farewell unto ya bonny sleeve gallant brae. Farewell to old Ireland, that island so green, to the party that have listened like white ballness green. And may the sunbeam shine o'er you when I am far away. So farewell unto ya bonny sleeve gallant brae.
My mother was reared in a ceili-house in a wee place called the Creggan outside Balahi. And you see, a very important thing in a ceili-house, you had to what they called a civil woman. Now, this sort of woman has been genetically bred out. They don't exist anymore, because where would you get a woman today who would make tea for 40 men on a night? And my mother did that, and she did it in my grandfather's house in the Creggan, and then she met my father, the boy next door, and they moved to Ballymecombs, and my mother brought the ceili-house with her because she made the tea. And very important thing when you're sitting at night and just have travelled 6 miles on a bicycle and you're cold and wet. Turf fire and mummy soda bread seemed to do the trick, and the stories followed.
And what time would the ceili-house, what time would it end at? Was there a set time, say 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock when people left, or did it peter out?
Oh, my father was a labourer, and most of the people who ceilied would have been as manual workers. And when you're up at work for 6:30 in the morning, you have to get to your bed at night. And I only can really speak because there weren't so many electric clocks about in the early days. So I don't know what time we were put to bed at in the early days, but 10:30 would have been the latest in the later years when the electric light came on. But it was really better whenever the tilly lamp was going. I can remember back to that era, and time didn't seem to matter so much at that time. We see, this was the strange part about it. The turf had to be cut, and it was just right about Easter time. So the turf were cut round then, and then it's a long drawn out process, 2 to 3 months. So the men would have moved to what we called the moss. Some people call it the bog, where the turf were cut, and they would have killed in the moss in the summer's evening and told stories to the midges.
Last Easter Sunday, as I sat and pondered o'er days and scenes I shall see no more, sweet youthful days when I used to wander from Carnamady to Carrickmore. Though many a city since then I have been in, New York, Chicago, Fort Wayne and Troy, my heart still pines for your fields, Gilleenan. My bosom yearns for you, sweet Pomeroy. A village perched on an elevation, a murmuring streamlet that bathes its feet, a lordly hollow and a green plantation, and a great white fairground where farmers meet. 3 streets at branch from a large quadrangle, a kirk, church, chapel and a school close by, a little courthouse where lawyers wrangle, and a neat post office, and that's Pomeroy. 'Twas there I got what I had of schooling. God bless the master if he's living yet. 'Twas there I first met young Kitty Doolin and fell in love with her the hour we met. Dear native hills with the skies above you, while big sleeve Gallon lifts his crest on high, while your waters flow to Lanye, I love you, my blessed, my beauteous, my own Pomeroy. How sweet it was when my work was over to take a stroll around the sandy braes, where the corn creaked in the dewy clover, and the blackbird warbled his evening lay. Beside me Kitty, with her form so slender, her ripe red lips and her soft brown hair, what cared I about foreign splendour? My Eldorado was sweet Pomeroy. Dear village blessed by the smiles of heaven, with your nice white chapel and its soft-toned bell, that used to summon to prayer the living and greet the dead with its parting knell. I would my ears could but hear it tolling, 'twould fill my bosom again with joy. But the mighty Atlantic's rolling its waves twixt me and my own Pomeroy. And yet who knows I am not despaired, if God so wills I'll retread the scene. I'll feast my eyes on the hills of Erin and see her senate in College Green. My arms will clasp forms 'twas death to sever, forms not beheld since I was a boy. And when life's journey is o'er forever, my place of rest may be sweet Pomeroy.
I suppose it's very rewarding to see the music sessions that are held here in the memory of Cú McCann, and you see the place full of musicians, storytellers and singers, and that I think is probably the best legacy that we can leave here in Creggan, is to hand that on to the next community, the young people. And there's a big reviving of singing and music in the area. Young people are getting involved, and both we could pay tribute to the likes of Paddy Creggan, who is always very supportive of our development here and have given his time to planning events. And Paddy would have put a lot of young people through the centre here in terms of music sessions, St Patrick's Day, whatever. So I suppose we have started something that we'll have to keep rolling now, and we'll have to hand it on to the next community.
Tis many's a gay night, from dark till daylight, I spend with people of high renown. But in all their grandeur and heaps to squander, my heart would wander for sweet Omagh town.